Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are doing fabulous. I'm not sure what's going on with my lighting here. Okay, if you're here, let me know you're here. If you don't see this till afterwards, please hit hashtag replay in the comments so that I know you saw this. Wellness Wednesday is something I started, 25 episodes ago. I'm kind of excited about that. It's hard to believe it's been that long already. And I started it because wellness is such a broad topic and there's so many things that can be covered under wellness. And I just feel like a lot of times we do the things that we know about, but if we don't share, if we do share with each other, we can learn a lot more things that may or may not help us. So sometimes Wellness Wednesday digs into mental health and mindset. And sometimes it covers body and food and things like that. And today is one of those days. So if you're just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a runner, which is where I'm going when I get done with this. I am a wellness advocate. I am studying to be a personal trainer. I am actually, I have done my FAFSA and I'm looking into grad school. I'm really excited about that. I'm a Nana, if I didn't say that already, a significant other, a mother, so many things, just like so many of you are so many things. So we did a series on bullying, and then last week we talked about St. Patrick's Day just to lighten things up a little bit. And in the process of that conversation, we somehow got on the subject very briefly of allergies and sinuses. And so I decided last week then that this week was going to be the week we're going to talk about that. Probably because I was starting to fight with mine a little bit. Down here in Florida, if you're not from Florida, we have what we like to refer to as the pollening. And what that means is pretty much everything is covered in yellow. And it's very, very difficult, even for some of the healthiest people, to get around that sometimes. As I've gotten older, I've had more issues with allergies. And when I'm eating right and I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, I don't have as much trouble. So there is truth to, even though allergies are your body's response to an allergen that's not actually necessarily dangerous, in some cases, the fact is that the better your immune system is, the more you can combat even something as simple as allergies. So today we're going to talk about my silver bullets on dealing with those. If you have suggestions, please feel free to make a comment. If I see it, Facebook doesn't always show me all the things. So if I see it, I will definitely respond. If you're here, let me know you're here. Say hi, say good morning. I know that last week several people commented and I didn't see those till I was done. So it does depend on the day. And I have props today. Props are fun for this subject. All right. So how I deal with the pollening, if you will, because this is about the only time I really, unless I have a food allergy reaction to something, this is about the only time I have allergies, is this time of year. The weather is beautiful, but that also means that it is ideal for pollen to move and for the trees to blow things and drop things. And it's spring and it's just something that comes along with that. A lot of times these milder temperatures, with the lower humidity and the breeze. Good morning, Miss Colleen. The breezes, it just makes it easier for stuff like this to move. So I have definitely been struggling a little bit. This is what I do. First of all, liquids. It's just like anything else, whether you have a cold or whether you're experiencing congestion or sinus issues due to allergies. Number one is liquids, especially hot ones. I'm a tea drinker. I like hot tea. And we have a dehumidifier built into our AC. So if I'm home during the day, I drink a fair amount of hot tea, usually green tea or some type of herbal tea. And that really helps because the liquids keep everything thin. You know what I'm talking about, that nasty M word, mucus. It keeps everything thin and moving. So whether you have a cold, whether you have sinus issues, if it's allergy related or something else, liquids, especially hot ones, do help to keep nasal passages clear and they help keep that mucus thin so that it's less problematic. Number 2, my favorite thing, but it's not everybody's favorite thing. It's nasal irrigation. Okay, so this might get a little yucky for some of you, and I'm sorry, but this is a really good tip, and it's something I only learned a few years ago when I had terrible, terrible allergies one year, and I think I was even actually having an allergy-induced asthma response. Now, asthma is not something I've ever been diagnosed with, but in that particular instance, when I did finally break down and go see the doctor, not because I was feeling bad, I was feeling fine. My energy levels were up, my brain was sharp, but I was a snot machine, y'all. Let's just get down and dirty with it. I was a total snot machine. And I had a pregnant family member coming for Thanksgiving, and I was worried. I was convinced it was allergies, but I was becoming worried that I had something that I was going to give her, even though nobody else that was around me had gotten sick. So I did go to the doctor, and they did ask me if I had ever had asthma, and I said no. They did not diagnose me. They did give me a temporary fix for it because it was allergy induced. And they did, in fact, confirm that what I was experiencing was allergies and that they couldn't find anything that indicated anything viral or bacterial. So, but this literally went on for weeks, which is usually a little bit longer than I would normally allow something to go. But again, I was feeling fine. Everything was on point except that I just couldn't stop producing mucus. It was really bad. So at that time, I learned about nasal irrigation. Here's prop number 1. This is a saline nasal spray. You can get it anywhere. This particular one's from Walgreens. I'm not necessarily here to advertise for everybody else, but you can get this at Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, any of those places. It is non-addictive. It is drug-free. It is preservative-free. It is basically an aerosol-driven saline spray. So it's got a little bit of sodium in it, which salt is good for helping to reduce bacteria and keep bacteria from breeding. I can't remember exactly, and I didn't put my glasses on. It's basically purified water, sodium chloride, and sodium bicarbonates to adjust pH. This has been a lifesaver for me. When I first tried it during that time, the first time I did it, I actually felt like a whole new woman. And I had to do it a couple of times a day during that time until things started to settle down. Another option is a neti pot. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't really dug into the neti pots. I've been hearing about them for years. I've looked at them a little bit. I find them a little intimidating for me. So this works. In the shower, tilt your head one way, put it up one nostril, tilt your head the other way, put it up the other nostril. Especially if you're like me and you have trouble blowing your nose in general. This is huge, and it can help you get a lot of that nonsense out before it gets a chance to get packed in there and cause a lot of problems. So this is definitely something, and because of the fact that this is non-medication, it's drug-free, you can use this all the time. Now, when I'm not having sinus issues, I do not use it all the time. Good morning, Danielle. But I do use it once or twice a week, even if I'm not having issues, just to kind of help things stay clear up there. Right now, I am using it daily every time I get in the shower. Good morning, Miss Christy. And it's made a huge, huge difference. So if it's not something you've tried, if it's something you've eyeballed, nasal irrigation, it helps keep things clear, helps keep things moist. And a neti pot is also a good option for those of you that prefer that. Like I said, I've just always kind of been a little intimidated by the neti pot, so I stick with the saline mist, and it's working for me. So I'm not inclined to fix it if it's not broken, right? Okay, steam inhaler is another great way. Now, back in my day, things like this, look, another prop. I'm having fun with this morning. Things like this didn't exist. So what we did was we boiled water on the stove, and we took a pot of water. We put our faces over it with a towel. Some of you may remember. The steam inhaler has come a long way. I don't have to mess with the pot. I don't have to mess with the stove. I can if I want to. But this little baby, and this one is actually, so the saline spray is from Walgreens. This one is from CVS. I've had a few different ones. This particular one is from CVS, and I like this one the best because, and you'll have to excuse, this is salt remnants, and I'll get there in a minute. This seems to have, it's got like a hard-coated plastic instead of, some other ones have metal or stainless steel, and if you put salt in them, or even if you don't, they have a tendency to rust over time if you don't make sure that you dry them out and clean them out. I always put this piece here after I've used it in the dishwasher to make sure it gets sterilized. It's very simple. You put a little bit of water in there and there's a button, you turn it on and you can adjust the amount of steam you're getting based on what you can handle. And you stick this thing over your face. And steam inhaling, has made a huge difference, especially when the pollen, when the allergy stuff and the sinuses start to get packed up in here. And I can tell that I'm getting puffy up here. If I'm starting to get a little bit of headache and a little bit of facial pain and I can't get congestion to clear, this is what I use. Sometimes I forget about this and it's like one of the last things I go to, and I'm frequently sorry, and I think to myself, why didn't I do that sooner? Now I do, and do your research, because there's different schools of thought on this. I need to clean this out. This didn't get cleaned out before it got put away the last time. And I do use sea salt in it a little bit, and that helps. Again, salt is very good in that respect for helping to keep bacteria from breeding. So a steam inhaler is a very easy, something you can take on the go to help treat sinus congestion. If you don't want to get over the pot and you can't access other things. Now, I forgot the disclaimer. These are all things that I use before I retreat to over-the-counter meds or calling the doctor. Because a lot of times if I stay on top of sinus issues when they get started during this time of year and I'm feeling okay and I have energy, I line danced last night, and I have the normal energy and I'm totally functional, I will use these items to try to avoid going to the doctor for as long as possible. Another one that I love, and this is when I start to get a little bit of a sinus headache or I start to get a little bit of facial pain, is a hot compress. Now, this one was actually designed as a cold or hot pack for the lower back. Had it on hand. I actually love the shape of it. And this will give you guys a good chuckle this morning, because what I do is I warm this up and I actually start here on top of my head. Good morning, Denise. And and I like this one because it's a little heavier. For whatever reason, the weight plus the heat really, it just seems to help break up the congestion, and it often relieves the sinus headache, and it's amazing. And then when it gets too warm up there, I will stick it on my face. And when it gets too warm there, I'll just kind of move it back and forth. You can use a heating pad for this purpose, but that's more of a dry heat. And a lot of times the moist heat that you get from one of these compress packs is much better. And again, Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, look around. I liked the one from the chiropractor's office for my back so much that when it busted, because I left it in the microwave for a little bit too long, I actually went and found another one of the same brand just because I liked the shape and I liked the way that I could wrap it around my neck, the base of my skull, the top of my head. You'd be surprised at how much heat can be helpful in relieving sinus pain. But again, this is more of a moist heat versus a heating pad, which is more of a dry heat. But if you're desperate and a heating pad is all you have, then by all means use the heating pad. Another thing that I learned the last time I had bronchitis, which was years ago, was that, good morning, Erica, if you are, it was bronchitis, it was ridiculous. I lost my voice, partly because of coughing, partly because of the over-the-counter med I was on. But the hot compress on the chest and up on the throat helped bring my voice back a lot faster. And it did help tremendously with that chest congestion. So I would always recommend that you have one of these hot cold compresses on hand, because you can stick it in the freezer or you can stick it in the microwave, whether you need heat or cold. It's very, very handy. And just follow the instructions on it or that come with it so that you don't overheat it and explode it like some of us have been known to do. So that's the hot compress. Another great way, back when we were all having trouble with COVID, and of course, this is not, again, disclaimer, I am not a doctor. This is not to say that any of these would help get rid of a cold or get rid of COVID if you had it or anything like that. But with COVID in particular, and especially with some of my sinus issues, allergy related, even over-the-counter medications didn't want to get rid of the sinus congestion. The sinus congestion was bad. It basically, for me, felt like a very bad sinus infection. And the over-the-counter meds just weren't doing it. And my stomach can only take so much ibuprofen or Tylenol. End of story. So, diffuser. Now, I encourage you to do your own research on oils. I currently use Young Living, and if you are interested in Young Living, I have a young lady that I actually have two that I can connect you with. And of course, if you have children, if you have pets, there's a lot involved in the essential oils. Some are very safe for children and pets, some not so much. So definitely encourage that you do your research. But during that time when even over-the-counter medications just weren't touching the sinus congestion, a diffuser with eucalyptus and peppermint oil was a lifesaver for me, especially at bedtime, to make it possible for me to sleep. But again, that's definitely something I can research it for you, but I always encourage in cases like this, when we start talking about supplements or alternative therapies, that you research it for yourself, because there are certain sensitivities, allergies, things you may have going on, situations you may have going on that when I research it, I'm not going to think of. But when you research it, you are going to think of, and you may pick up on key things that I would not, that are related specifically to you. So that is definitely what I would tell you about that. But I can tell you eucalyptus, if you're not into the essential oils, you can buy eucalyptus that you can hang upside down in your shower, and it's released when it heats. Peppermint oil, I have used a dab of peppermint oil under my nose to help clear my sinuses. It's just really, even when I was sick and on medication, sometimes the peppermint oil and the eucalyptus have made ginormous differences without actually having to apply anything like Vicks or anything like that to my chest, anything topical, because I really do try to avoid medications, anything like that, when I can. So another thing that's important to know is if you're struggling with sinus issues, to elevate your head. Most of us know this, but some of us forget about it. If you're like me, you forget that these are simple little tricks that you can do. And this is something that I did with my child when she was having chronic ear infections. The difference with the child was you can't keep them on an elevated pillow. So we would actually stick books in between the mattress and the box spring to elevate the whole upper side of her bed to help keep her head elevated. If you struggle to stay on something elevated, then that might be an option for you. But if you are struggling with sinus drainage, sinus congestion, sleeping with your head elevated, keeping your head elevated. I know sometimes if we're not feeling good, we just want to lay down, but keeping your upper body elevated so that stuff can drain properly and not move back into your ears or stay stuck up there is huge. And then movement. I'm going to talk about movement because those of you that have been following me for a while, you know that I lean very heavily on food and exercise as a treatment for almost anything. During that time, one of the times that I had a serious sinus problem that wouldn't go away, it was starting to pack in and it was starting to get really bad. And I think at that point I had even been on medication for a sinus infection, but I just could not get this to clear. Even with all of these, I could not get this to clear. And I had not been running. I had not been exercising because I had been waking up miserable, not able to really breathe that well, and struggling to get out of bed. So, and I had a little bit of that this last week. Just sometimes when you don't feel 100%, it's just hard to get moving. It's kind of more of a mental thing than it is a physical thing. And I know some of you know what I'm talking about. You thrive on feeling good. I thrive on feeling good. And if you don't feel good, it's hard to get moving if you don't feel 100%. So I really was struggling at this time to get all of this stuff out of my head a few years ago. And I had signed up for a 5K race. that was coming up, and I just was really having a hard time. A lot of it was mental because I didn't want to go start running and start coughing up a lung. Okay. So I did get out a couple of times before this race, and I started trying to run a little bit. And sure enough, I'd get about a quarter mile in and I'd start coughing up a lung, and then I'd feel a little bit better. Now, am I telling you that if your head is congested to go out and run? No, but hear me out for just a second. Excuse me. See, hear that? That's that morning stuff. So I ended up doing this 5K race, and I was really worried about it because I didn't want to, be bent over coughing up a lung in front of somebody. But that's exactly what happened. Is about a quarter mile in, half a mile in, I started hacking. I had to stop. I had to bend over, and then that was it. And I didn't do it again for the rest of the race. And the more I ran, the better I felt. And by the time the race was over, I literally felt like a new woman, because in that coughing spell, I had finally gotten rid of some stuff. I'll try not to get too gory there for you. I had finally gotten rid of some stuff, and things had moved out. That movement had moved blood, it had moved oxygen, and it had moved things that were settling around and settling in my throat, like what you just heard. It had moved them out. So movement is really important. I'm not going to lie. I think that baking in the hot sun for a little bit after that probably didn't hurt either. But if you are able to breathe, and in my case at that time, I was able to breathe through my nose and my mouth. It was just a lot of yuck. Okay. If you are able to breathe, it is okay to exercise. If you can't breathe at all, if you're struggling to breathe, or you have pain in your chest, probably not a good idea. But if you can breathe through your nose and your mouth, or you're having allergy issues or sinus issues, but you are able to have the energy and be as animated as I am right now, exercise is okay. Choose your battles. You may not want to go out and run a 5K. In that case, it did me a lot of good, but some yoga, a treadmill walk, a walk outside, maybe during the time of the day when the pollen isn't as bad. And I just picked up a random factoid about that, which I'll share in a minute. But movement is really important, and it can really help when you're not feeling well. So as tempting as it is to climb over to the couch and lay down and stay there all day, walking around, just standing at your desk. In my case, I have a standing desk. I know Erica does too. Anything like that can help. Sometimes just laying down and giving into. Sometimes you need rest. Sometimes laying down and giving into it too much can actually perpetuate the problem. So if I have to take meds, I start with, and I didn't bring that prop, I forgot to grab it. I start with a nasal spray like Nasacort. And if that seems to help control things over a course of a few days and settle things down, then usually that's as far as I go. I know that a doctor can prescribe things like Flonase. I think it's called a corticosteroid. That's something that you inject in your nasal passages once or twice a day, depending on the brand and the prescription. One of the times that I did seek medical attention for a sinus infection, and I don't know why I never thought of this until the doctor told me, that nasal spray is best used after you've gotten out of the shower and or irrigated your sinuses so your passages are open. Good morning, Brad. At the time I was irrigating in the morning and using the nasal spray at night to kind of split it up over 12 hours. But when your sinus passages are already open from the steam inhaler or the shower, that is the best time to use that nasal spray so that it can get up where it needs to go, get a little further up in there and go to work. So definitely, if you have the option, use that nasal spray at a time when your nasal passages are already open from the steam inhaler or the shower. And like I use Nasacort because it's fairly inexpensive and it seems to work. And it's usually 2 sprays in each nostril every 24 hours. So keep that in mind. If I do end up hitting an antihistamine or a decongestant or a combination over-the-counter med, like Benadryl or Claritin for an antihistamine, or Zyrtec, or something like that that's also got a decongestant in it, those are usually 12 to 24 hours as well. So I'll try to do them opposite of the nasal spray so that I have a little bit more of a continuous relief. Now, with that said, most of these things are not designed to be used for more than 7 to 10 days at a time. If you're using it 7 to 10 days in a row and find that you are not getting relief or the symptoms are not getting better except during the time that you're treating them, then it's probably time to seek medical attention. Okay, I'm going to touch a little bit on supplements, and I'm going to be very careful here because I am not a doctor. There's a lot of different schools of thought on supplements. However, I was actually quite surprised to find in my research that there are a lot of medical-based sites and information that are supporting the use of vitamin C, and I'm very happy to hear that. I've been taking vitamin C for a very long time. I take a time-release, slightly higher dose. It is always better, just let me say this, it is always better if you can get whatever it is that you need from your food. That's not always possible. Vitamin C, higher doses of vitamin C have been shown to help with allergies. I've been doing that for a very long time, which is one of the reasons why I don't have as much trouble with allergies as I used to. But it is considered, according to Medical News Today, and that's one of many sites that I found. Before it was a big no, there's not enough evidence. We don't take extra supplements. But those of us that have researched supplements know that vitamin C is not one that most often has any kind of toxic buildup in the body. Sometimes it depends on the person. And vitamin C does boost the immune system, which we already talked about. The stronger your immune system, the better you can fight allergies as well. And it also acts as a natural antihistamine. So vitamin C is a great thing. If you can get it from your food, the more you can get it from your food, the better. But if that's not possible, especially when you're sick, you have trouble eating, vitamin C is a great thing to add to your regimen. Oil of oregano is something I have been using for a few years that I got turned on to by a friend. It is natural. It can have side effects just like anything. I definitely, again, recommend that you do your own research and that you check side effects, and that if you are going to make a change and you're going to add something to your regimen, that you only make that change and that you wait a significant period of time, usually a minimum of 3 weeks is the rule, to see if you're going to have any reactions to that. Because even if it's natural, doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you. Stevia is a great example. It's a fantastic natural sweetener, but it's part of the ragweed family, and I'm allergic to ragweed, so I can't take stevia. So that's just an example of how even natural homeopathic things can be dangerous if you use too much of them, or if you don't do your research, or you don't pay attention to if you're having a reaction. But oil of oregano has been very helpful to me. For those of us that remember the big push with echinacea, I have replaced echinacea with oil of oregano. Oil of oregano is not something I take all the time. It's not designed to be taken all the time, but it can be very helpful. I have found it to be very helpful with my allergies. So when I'm having a flare-up, I do start taking the oil of oregano. Also a fantastic immune booster. One of the things that one of my followers brought up last week was honey. Raw honey, there's a lot of different schools of thought on, and mostly only the homeopathic sites talk about raw honey in terms of allergies. There are a few studies. There's actually one on the National Health Institute website that references allergic rhinitis. I'm not sure, I think I said that right, that references allergic rhinitis and states that raw honey taken in fairly high doses on a daily basis can help augment the symptoms of allergic rhinitis. Now, again, different schools of thought. So I'm not a doctor. This is my silver bullet. One of the reasons I may be struggling a little bit more with my allergies right now is because I am not on my regular eating routine, and my regular eating routine definitely included a tablespoon of raw honey per day in either my oatmeal or my protein shake or whatever. And because that's part of me eating right, I cannot tell you for sure that the honey is the thing that helped reduce my allergies. There's several studies out there. Many of them say not enough evidence. And I have to be very careful with this because I don't want to give misinformation. If you believe in the benefits of honey, take it. And take it carefully, because there can be issues, especially with raw honey, which is less or totally unprocessed
technically the definition of raw honey is unprocessed. It can be very dangerous for children under 12, and is definitely recommended. Obviously, if you're diabetic, you need to stay away from things that include sugar like raw honey. But there are some excellent benefits to consuming raw honey on a limited and cautious basis. I'm just going to leave it at that for right now because I do have to be careful about what I'm talking about here. So I would encourage you to do your own research. If it's part of your regular regimen, absolutely continue it. I always find honey to be a little bit of a better sweetener for me for teas and things like that than regular granulated sugar. It is a bit more natural. I'm not talking about the honey that's in the bear at Walmart. That's definitely a processed honey, probably safe for children under 12. But of course, there's, if I recall correctly, it's like children under 2 shouldn't have it because there's a huge potential for an allergic reaction there. So raw honey has its benefits. There's a lot of different schools of thought, and most of the medical websites absolutely say, no, it has nothing to do with helping with allergies. I know that people that have used it over time would probably tell you different, but that's going to be a personal choice on your part. But those are the top, and the only reason I had honey on the list to talk about today is because someone else asked about it. I have used it. I have used it for that purpose. And I do believe that it helped, but again, I must reiterate that at the time I was using it, it was part of a much different eating routine that I have kind of gotten away from and need to get back to. And that routine also included a lot more whole foods, and doing better with vegetables and fruits, which also includes a lot more vitamin C and other things that your body needs for a healthy immune system. So, what to do if you think you need to seek medical attention. If you're having trouble with allergies and you're like me, and sometimes it turns into a sinus infection, or you think you thought it was allergies, maybe it feels like it's starting to become something else. Basically, if you have these symptoms that I've talked about and you've been using the over-the-counter or the homeopathic and you've had them for more than 10 days or they're getting worse, you definitely need to see a doctor. If you have a fever, now, one of the websites that I used, one of the medical websites, I think it was Healthline. Yes, Healthline says that if you have these symptoms for 10 days or more, and that includes a fever, to see your doctor. Usually if I start running a fever, I talk to the doctor right away because it is so rare for me to do that if I have a fever, as a general rule, you know, if I've got the burning chest cough or if I've got the sinus pain and I start running a fever, then that means I've reached the point where I'm no longer controlling it myself and it's time to see the doctor. Watch your nasal discharge. There's different schools of thought about different colors, thicknesses, etc. But I know what's normal for me, and if it starts to look not normal, or especially if I start to see any kind of signs of blood, then I have a sinus infection and it's time to talk to the doctor. Congestion, sometimes like the cough that you heard a little while ago while I was talking, that is the overnight stuff settling down, moving around. I may cough like that once or more, and then I won't hear that again till tomorrow morning because it's all settling here and moving around. But if you have that kind of congestion, and that's not normal for you, then it may be time to see the doctor. And of course, if you have facial pain, a lot of the big facial pain or dizziness when you bend over, a lot of the big signs of a sinus infection or problem that's gone beyond what you can handle with steam inhalation and saline, is a lot of facial pain, especially when you bend over, because that's, especially if you can breathe, but when you bend over, it's pain and you feel dizzy, because that's a sign that it's packed way back in there and it's not even affecting here where you can breathe still through your nose, but you're getting, like I said, that pain, that dizziness when you bend over. That's generally a sign that it's time to see the doctor. So keep that in mind. You know your body. If you know your body, you know when it's time to seek help versus stop trying the things at home. These are things that I use to stay on top of it during this time of year when I can feel I'm starting to have a little bit of a problem. But as much as I do try to avoid over-the-counter medications or antibiotics, I know my body and I know when it's time to make that call. So Use these items judiciously. If you have suggestions, things you've tried, please feel free to comment or message me. I hope you found this helpful. And if you want to know any of the other things that I do that I haven't talked about, feel free to reach out, send me a message. I'll be happy to share where I get some of the things I get, whatever. But I hope you found this helpful. The most important thing is there are things that you can do that are non-medical, non-supplemental, that you can do at home to help stay on top of that, help keep you off of those meds and out of the doctor's office. But always be smart enough to know when it's time to say, okay, it's time, and go, okay? I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please feel free to share. If you have something you would like to see on a Wellness Wednesday topic, send me a message. I love to learn new things, so I'd be happy to do a little bit of research. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about depression. I had a follower ask, a couple of different followers ask about how to approach when a loved one may be battling with depression and they're not sure how to approach it. So, excuse me. We're going to talk about that next week. But right now I'm going to go run and see if I can move the rest of this nonsense out because I am feeling great today. So that means I'm almost done with this. Love you all. Thank you so much for checking in. And like I said, if you found this helpful, share it, send me a message, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Be well and have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.